قل هذه سبيلي أدعو إلى الله على بصيرة أنا ومن اتبعني وسبحان الله وما أنا من المشركين.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين سيد الأولين والآخرين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد, dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to this new live episode of Ask Zad. As usual, we will take 3 questions from the emails, and then the lines will be open for you to call, whether through Zoom or through landline. I'm not sure if the Skype link is still working or not, but you may give it a try. Sabiha says, must we stop doing everything and listen and answer the adhan? Otherwise, we won't be able to say the shahada on the day of judgment? What is the reward of answering the adhan and reciting the prescribed dua afterwards? This is one of the common misconceptions that people have, and that is they think and they believe that when the adhan is given, everything has to be halted. So if you are working, you should stop doing whatever you are doing. And if you are, for example, speaking with someone, you have to refrain from talking. If your head is uncovered, if you're a woman, you have to cover your hair. All of this is baseless. The worst of them all is those who say that if the adhan is being called and you're talking to someone, on your deathbed, you will be deprived from being able to say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. And this is totally baseless. And it's prohibited to mention such things without authentic evidences from the Prophet's Sunnah alayhi salatu wasalam. Otherwise, you will be lying on Allah Azza wa Jal by introducing such lies and baseless claims. Yes, when the adhan is given, the sunnah is to repeat after the mu'adhin. So when he says Allahu Akbar, you say Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. When he says Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, you repeat that. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, you repeat that. Hayya ala salati, hayya ala salat, you say La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Hayya ala al-falah, the same thing. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, you repeat that. La ilaha illallah, you say La ilaha illallah. Offer salutation upon the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam. And then you make the dua, Allahumma rabba hadihi ad-da'wati at-tammah was-salati al-qa'imah ati Muhammadan al-wasilata wal-fadila wab'athhu Allahumma al-maqam al-mahmud alladhi wa'adta. And if you add, and this was in al-Bukhari, and if you add innaka la tukhlifu al-mi'ad, this is also authentic. And you may say, Raditu billahi rabban wa bil islami dinan wa bi Muhammadin rasula. As Allah is satisfied with you when you say these dua, and you will gain the right of intercession on the day of judgment. The Prophet will intercede alayhi salatu wassalam for you on the day of judgment, among other things. So this is authentic, but to claim that you don't speak when the adhan is given, if you are a carpenter, hold your hammer and put it down. Don't work, don't do anything, don't eat. No, this is all not from the sunnah, and it is baseless. Okay. Zubair says, what are the conditions to open a hotel that would make it Islamically halal? This is a wide topic. But generally speaking, Zubair, if you want to open a facility if you want to rent in an apartment, if you want to build a hotel, you have to avoid anything that is haram. So if you serve in your hotel halal products, you don't serve pork, you don't serve meita, dead meat, and you don't serve alcoholic beverages, then you're okay. If there is no music, no nightclubs, no bars, then you're okay. If there is segregation, meaning that you employ only men or women who are working in segregated areas like accounting, etc., in their own offices, this is okay. What is haram is not to do any of the above. What is haram is to have the genders mixing, men and women. What is haram is to facilitate haram in the hotel room. So you have satellite channels that display music, movies, etc., which is nowadays, unfortunately, an essential part of any hoteling business. But as a Muslim, I cannot facilitate such haram things. So if you keep this in mind, inshallah, your business would be halal bi'idhnillah. Final question is from Muhammad. And Muhammad says, I watched your video on offering kaffara if you go back to a sin after telling Allah you won't go back to it. Sheikh, whenever we repent, isn't it a condition that we make a commitment when making the tawbah to Allah that we won't go back to the sin? But sometimes we may end up doing that sin again. And after watching your video, I got the impression that we have to offer kaffara also. Kindly clarify. Muhammad, jazakallahu khairan for asking this question. Yes, I did answer a few weeks ago, maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago, a question saying that if a person, while repenting, says verbally, oh Allah, I have, for example, quitted smoking and it's sinful and I will never go to smoking again. I answered by saying that saying this verbally is a commitment, and it takes the same ruling as promising Allah Azza wa Jal, taking a pledge, making a covenant, having a vow. So if you go back on it because you verbally said it, you have to expiate by feeding or clothing 10 poor people. And then I got many questions asking me to clarify a little bit more, similar to what Muhammad said. And to tell you the truth, I'm not infallible. So in the continuous effort to reassess and check the previous answers, seeing so many people asking, it triggered something in my mind saying that, okay, you gave your statement, maybe you were wrong. So I rechecked the answer again. And I even called one of the major scholars of Saudi Arabia, who's in the permanent, not permanent, the grand committee for major scholars. And I asked him about this question specifically. And he explained to me that I was wrong in my answer. And hence, here I am refuting myself and telling you that my answer, my previous answer was wrong. If you simply talk to Allah by saying, oh Allah, I'm sinful, I'm ashamed of myself, I will never do this particular sin again, and you fall into doing this sin, this is not a pledge, this is not a covenant, this is not an oath you took upon yourself. So there is no expiation for that. When does the expiation become mandatory? 1, when you say, I swear by Allah. 2, when you take a covenant, meaning that, oh Allah, I take a covenant with you. I pledge not to do this thing. Using the words that indicate that this is an oath or a vow or a covenant. Or when you make it a conditional repentance. oh Allah, I will never do this again. And if I ever do this again, then I will do so and so and so. So this is conditional. Again, this is binding. You have to expiate. Other than that, when you're just feeling remorseful and talking to Allah Azza wa Jal, whether you said that verbally or it's in your head, there is no expiation for that. And may Allah forgive us all. So we have Shamshad from India. Shamshad? Okay, Sharos from Sri Lanka.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. And you are?
Sharos Ahmed.
Okay, Hayyak Allah Sharos, yes.
Sheikh, can I ask 3 questions?
Well, I would please urge you to ask only one, because we have a very long list of callers waiting, 14 of them.
Okay, Sheikh. Jazakallah.
So, pardon me, you can come afterwards, after the 14 are over, and ask another question. Yes, Akhi.
Okay, Sheikh. Jazakallah. Sheikh, how can we identify the khawarij in this modern era and protect ourselves from their methodologies and ideologies?
Okay. I will answer you, inshallah. Number 2. Number 3, Hamza from Pakistan. Hamza? Okay. Thasal Afzal from the US.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Yes, my question is with regards to nudity in video games. Is it haram to play video games that have female characters in it, keeping in mind these characters are not showing their private parts?
So, what is it showing then?
It's just their hair and they're just female characters in general.
Okay. I will answer, inshallah. Okay, we have Muhammad Farhan from the Philippines.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Salamtullah.
Hi, Sheikh.
Hayyak Allah, akhi.
I have 2 questions, Sheikh.
Make that one, inshallah. Yes, akhi.
My question, Sheikh, is, Sheikh, me and my cousin have an argue. So he said that it is allowed to have girlfriend in nowadays. So can you advise me, Sheikh, what should I tell him? Because I don't have enough knowledge and I can't explain to him properly.
Okay. I will answer, inshallah. Shamshad from India.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salamtullah wa barakatuh. Yes,
My
akhi.
question is that is it permissible to eat food wearing shoes or footwear? Like the food is kept in chair and we are sitting, food is kept in table and we are sitting in chair, eating food wearing shoes or any footwear. Is it allowed?
Okay. And we have Mehwish from the US.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Salamtullah wa barakatuh.
What is the ruling on car insurance, Sheikh?
Okay.
Jazakumullahu khair.
وجزاكم. Muhammad Died Shah from India.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Sheikh.
Alaikum salam wa barakatuh.
Sir, I am 18 years old. I am suffering from OCD for several years, and for some months I sometimes get the fear of death. I fear that what is going to happen when I die, or what happens at the time of death. I fear death. So how can I get rid of? How can I think positively of death, or how can I think positively of this thought?
Okay, I will answer inshallah. Labib from Bangladesh.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Salamtullah.
Sheikh, one question.
Yes, sir.
Sheikh, you have told that using a small portion of nutmeg in the dishes will make the dishes haram, even if it doesn't intoxicate. Now, my question is, Sheikh, we know, I'm talking about the alcohol, the chemical alcohol, not the wine. So if there is a little bit, we know that if the alcohol, if it is a large quantity, is going to intoxicate. So it's a small, like chemical alcohol is being used in the food, which doesn't intoxicate. Will it be the same as the nutmeg, Sheikh?
طيب, inshallah. And we have Umar from Bangladesh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Sheikh. My
Assalamu alaikum.
question is, what is the aura of a man in front of mahram and non-mahram women?
What is the aura of?
A man in front of non-mahram women and mahram women.
Okay.
That's my question, Sheikh. Jazakallah.
Wa jazakum. Irshad from Sri Lanka.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Salamullah.
Sheikh, my question is regarding my current profession. I am engaged in group treasury, where we make borrowings from banks, and other financial transactions. So we have a mix of, Islamic and, as you can say, non-Islamic, right? Interest-based transactions and transactions like murabaha and wakalas, etc. So at this point, what would you advise me? Because, there's a mix. There's a, if you take most of our transactions are, Sharia compliant, I feel. And there are certain transactions that we do, which are, we borrow on OD interest, etc. like that. So what would be your advice?
Okay, I will answer inshallah. Faizan from India.
Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh Qasim. I had one question.
Alaikum salam tullah. Yes, sir.
My question is, there's a boy who there's adhkar of morning and evening on your website, alhamdulillah. So a boy, alhamdulillah, he transformed or something like that. He transformed it into a PDF and he sent it to many people, urging them to recite all the adhkar. So in that adhkar, there's the longest one, which is 100 times La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah. That dua 100 times. So that boy himself, he doesn't often, means never, almost never, he recites that adhkar. So is that boy sinful?
Okay.
Jazakallahu khairan.
Wa jazak. And we have finally Rashid from Tunisia. Or, we have Farzeen from Bangalore. Yes, Farzeen.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Alaikum salam tullah. Farzeen?
May Allah bless you and have mercy on you, Sheikh. Sheikh, my one question is, when parents are against Salafiyya, like they doesn't allow me to keep my beard long, and they want me to say Mawlid, something like that. So can you say what is the ruling for that? So how can I behave to my parents?
Okay, I will answer inshallah. And finally, Rashid from Tunisia. Rashid from Tunisia. Okay, I think we don't have Rashid on the line. So we will take a break from taking your questions, but we will answer the ones at hand, which are quite a handful. So Sharos from Sri Lanka, he says, what is the definition? Who are the khawarij? So that we be careful from not being with them. See, nowadays with the media, a lot of the youth are confused because the moment someone says something against a Muslim government or a Muslim ruler or a minister or any practice that he sees wrong, and he says, this is unfair, this is wrong, this is this or that, immediately you will find an army of people accusing him of being khawarij. And this is totally unfair, un-Islamic, because you cannot label someone to be a hypocrite or to call him as a kafir. And these people know this, that there are conditions to be fulfilled, there are obstacles to be made sure they do not exist before we can label someone as a kafir or as a hypocrite or as a mushrik, and likewise as a khawarij. You can't label people simply as such. So this is why a lot of the youth are saying, okay, whenever I open my mouth, they say you're a khawarij. What is this? No, khawarij is a cult, it is a sect that was found at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. And their main characteristics is one, they see it is fit and permissible to rebel and overthrow Muslim rulers. This is a very prominent characteristic. So all what you see among those who called for the Arab Spring, overthrowing governments, taking down Muslim rulers, just because they were unfair or they were tyrants, they're still Muslim. This is a prominent characteristic of al-Khawarij. Number two is giving takfir. So you oppose me, you're a kafir. And this is found not only with the Khawarij, it's found also with other deviant sects. You don't believe that the Prophet ﷺ was light and created from Allah's light, you're a kafir. You're this, you're that. So these two main traits and characteristics, if found in an individual, he would be from among the Khawarij. Anything else? A lot. If you study their literature and how they think, you will find that they have no problem in killing Muslims and being in truce with the non-Muslims. You will find that they have no problem in taking your money unlawfully, or anyone else who's not with them, because they think that all of them are kuffar and their wealth, their blood is all halal for us. And this is very dangerous. And if you go through their websites, you will never find a reliable scholar. You will never find a scholar who's known as a person. All what you will see is Abu Hatim al-Zarkashi, Abu Mujahid al-Tunisi, Abu Abdullah al-Najdi. Nicknames. Who are they? I don't know. And you will find articles, PDFs, pages and pages of quotations here and there. You don't know who wrote them. And they are made to deceive and to confuse the Muslims. It could have been written by the CIA or the KGB or whatever. Who cares? But it's definitely used to confuse the Muslims. So without referring back to the true, real scholars of Islam, whom we have a lot and plenty of, these youth are in great danger, and Allah knows best. Afzal from the US says, can we play video games where there are characters of females? Wallahi, akhi, video games are games. If there is no music in it, if there's nothing haram in it, it becomes okay. But unfortunately, nowadays, video games are so real that you see female characters who are more beautiful than reality itself. They hand-pick them and hand-draw them that they are seductive, that you can't take your eyes off them. And this is why probably you lose all the time. You just watch, ooh, wow. So such characters are haram to watch. And just being a cartoon doesn't make it halal. So there are porn by cartoons. Would that make it okay to watch? Definitely not. So you said that they're covered their awra. Yes, but if you're talking about in a general tense, if these women are not actual women and they don't show their figure, how their waists and measurements are portrayed, they're just like Mario Kart, for example. Yeah, the girls there are girls, like they're not women. So I don't think that this is a problem. But when it comes to Mortal Kombat or the likes, where you have real live characters in front of you, this is not permissible. Muhammad Farhan says, can we take girlfriends? Because I have a friend who does not believe in that. This is most likely your friend is not a Muslim, because if he's a Muslim, This is a well-known fact that even children know about. It is totally prohibited for a man to take a girlfriend, and it's totally prohibited for a girl to take a boyfriend. This goes totally against Islam, and saying that this is permissible when in the Quran we are prohibited from marrying Christian women if they're taking boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. So this shows you that this is mentioned in the Quran and it's totally prohibited and haram. It's totally prohibited in Islam to touch the hand of a non-mahram woman, someone who's not related to you. To touch her hand, the Prophet says, it's best for you to be stabbed in your head with a needle of iron rather than to touch a woman that's not permissible for you, let alone have a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, dating, going out, etc. So definitely this is not permissible, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. We have a short break. Stay tuned, and inshallah, we'll be right back.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today I'm going to talk about the book Interactions of the Greatest Leader. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam reminded us through his guidance and example that Islam is complete submission to the will of Allah. For one who submits, a mere declaration or display of belief will not be taken for success, but his or her heart and soul will certainly be put to test. Allah tested the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam severely in order that he sallallahu alaihi wasallam becomes an example for his companions to follow. Similarly, he tests the believer to see whether he lives a righteous life in accordance with the instructions and commands set by Allah, or lives according to what his desires dictate. Whether the faith he displays is firmly rooted in his heart, or is it merely on the surface. He will be tested to see whether he will continue to have faith and love of Allah when in a calamity, as he does when in comfort, whether he will continue to remember and worship him if given bounties and comforts of life, as he does when he lives a modest life. Allah will undoubtedly test him to see if his faith, trust and love of him is unconditional, or is it conditioned upon good health and a comfortable life, free from stress and anxiety. The Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam showed us through his own example that for a righteous Muslim, this life is a testing ground where he will continue to be tested until he meets Allah. For him, tests will be conducted on earth while he lives, and not after he dies. He knows that as soon as death arrives and he steps into the next world, his tests are over. There, he only receives the result of his tests and enjoys the fruits of the deeds that he committed during a short span of time called life.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and welcome back. Shamshad from India says, what's the ruling on eating while wearing your shoes, while putting your shoes on? And there's nothing, Shamshad Bhai, wrong in eating while I'm wearing my shoes on, or wearing my socks on, or wearing my trousers on, unless I'm eating with my feet. Then this is a little bit difficult to do with your shoes. So basically speaking, there's nothing in Islam at all. Even if you're sitting on the floor, on the ground, not on a table. If you're sitting on the ground, cross-legged, and you're eating while wearing your shoes, there's nothing wrong in that at all. Mehwish from the US says, what's the ruling on car insurance? Insurance in general whether it's property insurance, whether it is life insurance, whether it is car insurance, whether it is education insurance, whether it is assets insurance. I'm a footballer. I put a policy of $50 million on my feet as an insurer. All of these fall under the category of haram, major sin, because it involves two major sins: gambling, which is a prominent factor, and interest, riba. The gambling is like lottery. So I buy a ticket, a lottery ticket for $1, and I may get, and I hit the jackpot, and I win 300 millions, or maybe more, maybe less. And I, like the millions of people, may just end up losing my $1 ticket. This is gambling. We play tennis. The winner is bought a lunch as a treat from the loser. This is gambling. Either you win all, that is eating, or you lose all, that is I have to buy you a property or buy you lunch. So all types of insurance is prohibited, and it's haram to work in an insurance company. Now, having said that, sometimes the laws of the countries you're living in mandate that you have an insurance, specifically when it comes to car insurance. So the vast majority of countries in the world, unfortunately, enforce car insurance. The majority of them enforce third-party insurance, which means that if I bang a car and it's my fault, my insurance pays to fix his car. My car is my own responsibility. I have to fix it. So the insurance company pays for the damages I caused to a third party, not to my own car or to those with me. And they make it mandatory. And if you're caught without it, you'll be fined. The scholars say, in regards to such insurance, that this is permissible due to necessity. Likewise, if I travel to Europe or anywhere else, maybe a particular country enforces that I pay health insurance during the duration of my stay in that country, for a week, for a month, or whatever. So this is mandated. It comes with the visa. I can't go and enter a country without it. This is permissible due to necessity, while resenting it, while abhorring it with my heart. I can't do anything with that. So the minimal requirement required by the government is what you can opt for. So if they say you have to pay $200 third-party insurance a year, okay, I pay that. But to come and select, said, no, I'd like to have the best insurance policy you have. They said, okay, we have this policy that you have to pay $1,500 a year, where whatever accident you're involved in, we'll fix it for you in the car's agency, the dealership. And we will make it the best repairs needed, etc. No, this is haram, because now you're opting for something extra, not what is mandated by law, which you have to do it due to necessity. So I hope this answers your question. Muhammad from India, he says he has OCD, he's 18 years of age, and he fears death. Akhi, the fear of death is a natural thing. We all fear death. No one would say that, no, I'm not afraid of death. Everybody's afraid of death. But here is the trick. Your fear of death can be positive and can be negative. If your fear of death is positive, it means that it will drive you to excel in getting closer to Allah. in preparing for the day of judgment, in filling your grave with light, with good deeds that will accompany you until resurrection day. So this fear of death makes you refrain from doing sins. This fear of death pushes you to pray Fajr on time in the masjid, and to fast Mondays and Thursdays, and to memorize the Quran, and to do good deeds. This fear is positive, and it is liked by Allah Azza wa Jal because it draws you closer to Allah. The negative fear is the crippling one, is the fear that makes you despair of everything. Why don't you pray? What's the use? I'm gonna die. And if I'm gonna die, then Allah will put me in hell. So why would I do any good deeds? Why would I refrain from haram? And it becomes an obsession. And here is where Satan takes over you, controls you, and deviates you from doing what Allah loves. By despairing from Allah's mercy, by continuously fearing death, the fear that cripples you from doing good things, you're doomed. Sorry to say this, but there's no way to beat around the bush. You are doomed. You're totally gone and on the losing end. So what to do, Sheikh? Well, you have to put high gear. You have to trust Allah. You have to make dua. And you have to transfer your negative fear into positive fear by feeling optimistic, by doing whatever you can so that once death comes, you raise your hands and say, I did my best. There's nothing you can do. I did my best and I'm willing to face Allah Azza wa Jal with my best. But when your fear is crippling, when death comes, it's going to be a disaster. May Allah save us all. Labib from Bangladesh, she says nutmeg or jawzat al-tib. Isn't having some of it like having little amount of alcohol that is not wine? And I say the answer is no, it's different. First of all, nutmeg is spices. The vast majority of schools of thought consider it to be intoxicating, like weed, like hash. So Ibn Daqiq al-Eid even considers it to be like hash. So the Maliki school, the Shafi'i school, the Hanbali school, they all say that it is haram. However, some scholars, contemporary especially, say that little bit of it that fixes the taste would make it permissible. So it's an issue of dispute, but the vast majority say it's haram. And whenever there is doubt, we always take what is better to be safe than sorry. First of all. Second of all, industrial alcohol is not intoxicating by itself. So if you ask me the question again and say, Sheikh, if we add a drop or two of wine or brandy, would that be haram? I said definitely haram. But if the product itself has a drop or two of alcohol that is not intoxicating even if consumed in large quantities, that is the food itself, not the drops, I said this is okay because this is not wine. Haram for itself. When we go to nutmeg, we find that the vast majority say it is intoxicating. It's not like industrial alcohol. It is like wine. It is like brandy. It is like other intoxicating material that a single drop would be haram. So I hope this answers your question. Umar from Bangladesh says, what is the awrah of men in front of women, whether mahram or non-mahram women? The awrah was mentioned in the hadith. It is the area between the navel and the knees. This is awrah. The salat is not accepted if not covered. Having said that, this doesn't mean that I should go topless, covering only my awrah from the navel to the knee, and go to the market and go to the masjid or go to elsewhere. There is a difference between awrah of salat and awrah of looking. However, men, due to their nature, they may need to uncover their chest and their upper body, whether they are in a gym, whether they are in a swimming pool or at the beach, and this is permissible. Women are supposed to lower their gaze because there will be fitna because of that. And this is for non-mahram. Mahram, usually, your sister looks at you like that, nothing would happen. Normally speaking, your mother, your aunt, nothing would happen because you're a mahram. They consider you as a mahram and looking at you would be normal. But for non-mahram women, they have to lower their gaze. Especially that it would cause fitna. But if hypothetically it would not cause fitna, then this is no problem because this is not a awrah. Your back, your chest is not a awrah, and Allah knows best. Irshad from Sri Lanka says, I work in a mixed bank that has Islamic windows and conventional transactions, which is riba based. So what do you advise me? Akhi, if you work for both, then you have to leave the job. If you're working in a department that only deals with halal transactions, has nothing to do with the riba-based transactions, as in the case of a bank trying to separate and split their transactions to be Islamic and non-Islamic. And a number of banks are doing so, to the extent that even if they have their offices in the building of the conventional bank that they belong to, they pay rent annually to the conventional bank so that their income would be totally separated and segregated from the income and transactions of the bank. If this is the case, and you are aiming to establish an Islamic transaction department or bank or branch, then this is permissible. But if you are doing both jobs, so someone comes to you and said, I need to do murabaha. So okay, here's the form. And you help him through. And someone else says, I need $100,000 loan. How much interest are you going to charge me for? I said, okay, we're going to charge you this and that. No, this is totally prohibited and you have to quit. Faizan says, if someone calls people to virtue and to good deeds, but he himself is not involved in it, is he sinful or not? The answer is no, he's not sinful. If I tell people to pray night prayer and to offer witr every night, and I give a beautiful lecture, but I myself don't pray night prayer, am I sinful? The answer is no. Because night prayer and witr are not mandatory. When would I be sinful? I would be sinful when I ask people to do mandatory things while I'm skipping it, and to refrain from haram things while I'm involved and engaged in it, while they don't know, while I am not remorseful for that. You see, when Allah tells us to do something or to stay away from something, there are 4 things that we must do. 1, to do what Allah tells us to do. 2, to advise people to do these things. 3, to refrain from what is haram. 4, to prohibit and forbid people from falling into that haram. So these 4 things I'm obliged to do. Now, if I'm capable of advising people, Akhi, you have to pray in the masjid. The prayer of the masjid is the difference between a believer and a hypocrite and the reward you're getting. I'm also obliged to go to the masjid myself. But if I fail from going to the masjid, this means I've done 1 out of 2. Now, what is the reason for not doing it? if the reason is because I'm a hypocrite, I just order people to do good while I don't do it, and I tell people not to do haram while I'm engaged in it, then I'm a hypocrite, because I'm happy with doing this with my role. And this, the hadith of Osama bin Zayd, may Allah be pleased with him and with his father, where the Prophet tells us about a man on the Day of Judgment who goes round and his guts are spilled. So he's going round like in a mill, and people say, whoa, hey dude, what's happening? When we were in dunya, you used to tell us to do good and forbid us from doing bad. So what's cooking? He says, well, I used to tell you to do good and not do it myself. And I used to prohibit you from doing haram and fall in it myself. This falls exactly on a person who does this as a hypocrite, not as a fearful person who asks others, please don't smoke, smoking is bad. Well, he smokes himself and he's remorseful, regretful, and he doesn't know what to do. He's so weak. This is different. We're talking about someone who's defiant between him and Allah. And he's happy that people think of him as a righteous person, while in depth he is a hypocrite, and Allah knows best. So the final question is from Farzin, and he says that if I have a methodology of following the Salaf, and I love to follow the Quran and the Sunnah, while my parents are against that. So they always come and fight with me when it comes to growing the beard or not celebrating the innovations they're falling into. What should I do? Akhi, this is your test from Allah. And your test is to bear and to tolerate such ignorant parents. You have no other alternative but to be kind, dutiful, diplomatic, respectful with them, because they're your gateway to Jannah. And at the same time, you have to remain steadfast with your feet on the ground, no compromise when it comes to religion of Islam and following the Sunnah. So what to do? Just smile in the faces. Don't argue. Don't lecture them. You are still a child in their eyes. So when you say to them, no, there's just bid'ah, Sheikh so-and-so says it's bad, so they will immediately say you're a Wahhabi. You're an extremist. You are an infidel. You don't have a madhab. So we're not going to take you for granted or accept what you say. This is not the right way. Don't lecture them. Don't debate with them. Don't argue with them. Be, as much as you can, a dutiful child. Whenever they say something, you do it before they ask you to do it. You get the groceries, you help cleaning the house, you teach your younger siblings, you do the chores of the house with a big smile. This will show them that, oh, this guy changed because of his religion. And they will accept this, inshallah, from you. We have Rashid from Tunisia.
السلام عليكم شيخ.
Salaam Allah.
Rashid, not Rashid.
حياك الله يا أخي. What can I do for you?
I want to ask about المداخلة. What is it and what do they believe in?
I don't know what you mean by المداخلة أخي.
مدخلism.
مدخلism. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. وجزاك. The madkhalism is a word used by a faction of the Muslims. And this is a byproduct of the intelligence department, the CIA, whatever, used to deviate and split the Muslim ummah. So you have people who think in a particular way, and you have others who think against them. Though they're both Salafis, they're both following the Quran and the Sunnah, they pray like each other, they consider the major shuyukh, bin Baz, bin Uthaymeen, al-Albani, to be their shuyukh, but they differ on few things here and there, and this is what is causing drift between them. It started with a dispute, an argument, a debate, ended up in slandering, in labeling. So if you're not with us, you're against us. And this is what parties are all about, though they say that we don't follow parties. So they consider anyone else to be to be khawarij, sururi, qutbi, etc. All of these things, and they call them madkhalis, they call them murjis, they call them. This exchange of labeling names is what is killing the ummah. Instead of uniting, instead of coming together, instead of reading the Quran, the Sunnah, with the understanding of the Salaf, people have been polarized. And this is damaging the ummah. Leave everything behind you, akhi, and focus on studying the Quran and the Sunnah with the understanding of the righteous predecessors. Your scholars who are not controversial are the ones who you should follow. Sheikh bin Baz, Sheikh bin Uthaymeen, Sheikh al-Albani. These guys are not controversial. Listen to them, learn from them, and you, inshallah, will be in safe hands. Kalthum from India.
Sir, Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh.
Sir, some scholars in subcontinent says that the one who dies without taking bath means pledge, dies on kufr. Is this true?
Okay.
Jazakallah khair.
Wa jazakum. So Kalthum's question was about bay'ah or pledge. And the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, whoever dies without a pledge to an imam, then he will die the death of al-jahiliyyah, of pre-Islamic era. Not to die on the kufr. This is not meant here. Now, what is this pledge meant by? The pledge is not like what you guys in the subcontinent think, that I have to go to a sheikh or to a peer. Usually the Sufis do it, and give him my pledge that he will control my life as the man who's washing a deceased corpse controls it. No, this is not true. The pledge that is meant in the hadith is to have the allegiance to a Muslim ruler. So now in India, you don't have such a Muslim ruler. So what to do? You have to look for a Muslim ruler that you give, even if not personally, the pledge of allegiance to. So you consider, for example, the ruler of this country or the Muslim imam of this country, a ruler with a country, with an army, with power, to be your imam, and whatever he says, you follow. And this is what is meant by it, and Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best. We have Mukhtar from Nigeria. Mukhtar.
Assalamualaikum.
Alaikum salam. I can barely hear you, Mukhtar.
Okay, sir. I don't know if it's a little bit better right now.
Yeah, it's better. Yes.
Alhamdulillah. What is the ruling on saying Ameen or saying Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam while someone makes a dua that is innovated? So, for example, someone is making a dua and he's making tawassul with the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Is it permissible for me to say Ameen to such a dua, or to say Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam when he mentions the name of the Rasul in such a dua?
Okay, I'll answer your question. So Mukhtar's question is quite clear. If someone is making a dua that is innovative, it is an innovation, should I say Ameen? The answer is no. You should not be in that place from the beginning. If he makes such an innovation, you should have left. But if the name of the Prophet ﷺ was mentioned, yes, you offer the salutation due to the name's mentioning, not due to the innovation that is being practiced. So yes, we always say Allahumma salli wa sallim ala Muhammad, even if he's an innovator making a mawlid. But we offer salutation due to our love to our Prophet ﷺ, but not due to his innovation. But if someone in an innovation saying, oh Prophet of Allah, I ask you to intercede, and you say Ameen, A'udhu Billah, you're participating, you're endorsing, and you're taking part in the same sin and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. This is all the time we have. Until we meet next time, I leave you fi amanillah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
قل هذه سبيلي أدعو إلى الله على بصيرة أنا ومن اتبعني وسبحان الله وما أنا من المشركين.